There is a moment, somewhere between the final breath of December and the first quiet morning of January, when the world feels strangely unfamiliar. The air is different. The light is softer. Life seems to pause for just a second, as if giving you a chance to notice something you've been too busy to feel. And in that pause, something inside you stirs. A softness. A longing. A spark of emotion that feels both ancient and new. It is the voice of your inner child. Not the child you remember from old photographs or scattered memories, but the emotional child, the part of you who still believes life can surprise you, who still longs for joy, who still knows how to hope even when you've forgotten how. This episode, The Inner Child's Guide to a Joyful New Year, is created for that voice. It's for the part of you that wants the new year to feel meaningful, not overwhelming. To feel spacious, not pressured. To feel alive, not drained. This is a 3-part journey into rediscovering joy, play, possibility, and emotional freedom as you enter the new year. Part 1, Listening. A gentle beginning with your inner child. Part 2, Releasing. Making room for joy by letting go of last year's heaviness. Part 3, Living. Creating a joyful year grounded in hope, play, and possibility. If you stay with me until the end, you will feel something shift inside you. Not a dramatic transformation, but a soft reconnection to the part of you who once loved life freely. Let's begin. Why your inner child appears every time a new year begins. When you think of a new year, what comes to mind? For most adults, goals, expectations, pressure, reinvention, discipline, improvement. But your inner child never cared about any of that. Children greet new beginnings with something much simpler, and much more powerful. They greet it with hope. They aren't thinking, how do I become a better person? How do I fix my flaws? How do I avoid failure this time? Instead they think, I wonder what will happen next. Wonder. Curiosity. Possibility. This is the emotional state your inner child naturally enters at the start of a new year. But as adults, we bury these feelings under responsibilities, stress, expectations, and habit. And yet, every year when January arrives, your inner child wakes up again, quietly, gently, and asks, can we start fresh? Can this year be different? Can we feel more alive? Can we play again? Can we hope again? Can we let ourselves dream? This isn't naive. This is deeply human. Hope is not childish. Hope is essential. Your inner child appears to remind you of that truth. The emotional reset you don't realize you need. You may have noticed something. The new year can feel bittersweet. Many people feel heavy, anxious, nostalgic, or strangely emotional during the first days of January. This is not a flaw. This is your inner child trying to get your attention. Children feel endings and beginnings more intensely than adults do. They sense change not logically but emotionally. And your inner child feels the turning of the year in the same way. The heaviness you feel is often unprocessed emotion, longing for joy, desire for rest, memories from childhood, hopes that didn't come true, dreams you're afraid to speak, the weight of responsibility, the ache for softness, the fear of another year of self-abandonment. Your inner child carries all of this, quietly, patiently, until you stop long enough to notice. The beginning of a new year is one of the rare moments when your heart is open enough to hear them. And that's why listening is the first step. Listening to your inner child. The forgotten art. Listening isn't about hearing words. Your inner child rarely speaks through language. They speak through sensation, intuition, desire, discomfort, and longing. They speak through the tightness in your chest when you think about last year's failures. They speak through the ache of wanting to rest but feeling guilty about slowing down. They speak through the spark you feel when you imagine something new. They speak through the sadness you feel when you realize how long you've lived without joy. They speak through restlessness, frustration, hope, nostalgia, tenderness. Children don't hide their feelings. Adults do. So listening means making space for emotions you've ignored. What feels heavy? What feels exciting? What feels missing? What feels possible? What feels painful? What feels alive? Your inner child isn't asking you to fix them. They're asking you to hear them. Because healing doesn't begin with solutions. Healing begins with presence. Why adults lose joy, and why your inner child still holds it. Think about what joy felt like when you were small. It wasn't something you questioned or analyzed. It simply happened. Joy flowed naturally through. Running barefoot. Drawing for no reason. Laughing suddenly. Playing without purpose. Imagining worlds in your head. Feeling delighted by small things. Letting curiosity lead you. Joy was instinctive. It was a birthright. But adulthood teaches you to suppress joy in exchange for productivity, performance, approval, stability, predictability, control. Joy becomes the last thing on your list, or something you don't even allow yourself to want. Your inner child never agreed to this. They never stopped wanting joy. They never stopped knowing how to feel it. And if you want a joyful new year, you need to follow their lead. The inner child is the keeper of joy. They know the way back. Hope is not weakness. It's wisdom. Adults call hope unrealistic. Children call it natural. And your inner child carries hope not because they are naive, but because they are connected to truth. Hope reminds you that life can still surprise you. Hope reminds you that you are not finished growing. Hope reminds you that joy is possible even after long seasons of darkness. Hope reminds you that you still deserve a beautiful life. If you feel a quiet flicker of hope inside you, even after everything you've been through, that flicker is not weakness. It is survival. It is intuition. It is wisdom. It is your inner child saying, please don't give up. Not yet. Not when so much is still possible. Beginning the new year with possibility instead of pressure. Most people enter the new year with demands. Be better. Work harder. Fix everything. Do more. Achieve more. Don't fail. But possibility speaks differently. What if your life could feel softer? What if this year could feel different? What if you didn't have to be perfect? What if you allowed yourself joy? What if you stopped running from yourself? What if you trusted your own heart? What if you let yourself hope again? These questions invite expansion, not fear. They open your heart instead of tightening your chest. They awaken your inner child instead of silencing them. Possibility makes the new year feel alive. Part 1 is about opening the door, listening, noticing, and welcoming the voice of your inner child. In Part 2, we explore the clearing. We'll talk about the emotions you carried from last year, why your inner child feels overwhelmed, what you must gently release to make room for joy, how to stop abandoning yourself, how to let go without forcing it. This is the emotional reset your heart needs. And in Part 3, we step into the new year together. You'll learn how to build a joyful year with your inner child, how play becomes healing, how hope becomes strength, how possibility becomes purpose, how to create a life that feels aligned and alive. Part 2. Clearing the barriers, making space for joy, innocence, and truth. In Part 1, we stepped into the doorway of the new year with the childlike sense of wonder you once carried so naturally. But wonder cannot thrive in a crowded heart. Joy cannot rise when your emotional world is full. And innocence cannot return as long as layers of fear, guilt, and self-protection remain unaddressed. So Part 2 is about clearing. Softly, gently, honestly. It's not about forcing yourself to let go, or pretending nothing hurt. It is about creating emotional space, so your inner child can move freely within you again. So joy has room to breathe. So wonder has room to grow. So you can step into the new year lighter, clearer, and less burdened by what you were never meant to carry. Let's begin. The hidden weight you bring into the new year. Most people enter the new year with invisible heaviness. They set goals, make resolutions, try to start fresh. While the truth is, they're carrying everything from the year before, sometimes everything from the last 10 years. You may be carrying fear from a time you felt unsupported, sadness from moments no one acknowledged, guilt you didn't deserve, pressure of expectations that never aligned with your truth, disappointment from unmet hopes, loneliness you learned how to hide, old emotional wounds that never had space to heal, childhood patterns that still shape your adult decisions. You can't start a new year simply by flipping a calendar. A new year begins inside you. It begins with release. But release is often misunderstood. So let's clarify what it truly means. What release is, and what it is not. Many people imagine release as something dramatic or quick, like a sudden breakthrough or emotional purge. Release is rarely like that. Release is not forcing yourself to forget. Pretending you're healed. Forgiving when you're not ready. Acting strong when you're hurting. Rushing past your emotions. Ignoring your needs. Pushing yourself to move on. Release is something gentler. Release means letting truth surface. Letting yourself feel what you've avoided. Letting a story you've repeated for years finally soften. Letting go of pressure that never belonged to you. Letting your heart admit what it needs. Letting yourself rest. Letting yourself cry. Letting your inner child speak. Release is not an act of strength. It is an act of surrender. It is the moment you stop fighting yourself. The moment you stop holding everything alone. The moment the weight begins to drop. Not because you forced it, but because you finally made space to feel it. Release is emotional honesty. Release is emotional freedom. Why your inner child needs you to release before you begin again. Your inner child is not just the joyful part of you. They are also the deeply sensitive part of you. And they remember everything your adult mind tries to forget. Every moment you felt overlooked. Every time you swallowed your truth. Every situation where you didn't feel safe. Every time you abandoned yourself to be acceptable. Every dream you silenced because it felt unrealistic. Every hurt you told yourself wasn't a big deal. Your inner child holds all of it. Before you can step into a new year of wonder, they need reassurance. They need to know you're not going to repeat the same cycles. They need to know you're not going to silence them again. They need to know you're not going to ignore their emotions. They need to know you're not going to prioritize perfection over peace. They need to know that you're finally paying attention. When your inner child feels seen, release happens naturally. When they feel safe, softness returns. When they feel heard, the emotional weight begins to dissolve. Your inner child has been waiting for this moment. Maybe for years. The emotional dust that blocks your joy. Joy is not something you create. Joy is something you uncover. But dust accumulates over joy. Quietly, slowly, invisibly. The dust looks like self-judgment, guilt for resting, fear of disappointing others, overthinking, hyper-independence, people-pleasing, feeling responsible for other people's emotions, believing your needs are too much, avoiding vulnerability, suppressing excitement, shrinking your desires, carrying burdens that don't belong to you. This dust blocks your ability to see the world with wonder. It dulls your joy. It quiets your innocence. It disconnects you from the wisdom of your inner child. The new year is not asking you to become a new person. It is asking you to dust off the real you. The childlike you. The soft you. The honest you. The hopeful you. The alive you. You don't need to build joy. You need to clear the things that dim it. The grief that comes with clearing. When you begin releasing, really releasing, grief often rises to the surface. Grief for what you didn't receive. Grief for what you carried alone. Grief for how long you silenced yourself. Grief for the joy you lost along the way. Grief for the innocence you had to protect. Grief for the child you were forced to grow out of too quickly. This grief is not a regression. It is a reunion. It is your inner child finally being allowed to speak. It is your emotional truth finally being acknowledged. It is the moment you stop being at war with yourself. Grief is not the enemy. Grief is the doorway. It is the bridge between who you were forced to become and who you were meant to be. Letting grief rise is letting your inner child breathe. Creating emotional space. The foundation of wonder. Once you begin clearing, even gently, even slowly, something shifts. Suddenly, you can feel your heart again. You can hear your intuition. You can sense what feels true and what feels wrong. You can pay attention to the small, beautiful things. You can imagine ideas that once seemed unrealistic. You can hope without collapsing under fear. This is emotional space. This is the internal landscape where wonder grows. Children live in spaciousness. They don't fill their minds with endless tasks or heavy expectations. They don't organize their lives around pressure. They leave room for the unexpected. When you create emotional space, your inner child returns. They start exploring. They start imagining. They start hoping. They start guiding you. Wonder needs space. Joy needs space. Wisdom needs space. You cannot rush into a new year with a full emotional backpack. Part of this journey is simply emptying it. Not perfectly. Not completely. Just enough for possibility to enter. What you're really releasing it's not just emotions. As you clear, you're not only releasing emotion, you're releasing identity. You're releasing the version of you who had to survive, the version of you who stayed small, the version of you who always put others first, the version of you who didn't feel good enough, the version of you who hid your light, the version of you who feared being seen, the version of you who believed life couldn't be magical. Every old identity that was rooted in fear becomes softer as you release. And as these old versions melt away, something else begins to emerge. The version of you that is connected to innocence. The version of you that trusts curiosity. The version of you that welcomes joy. The version of you that feels safe within yourself. The version of you that believes in wonder again. This is who you were meant to be. Not perfect. Not healed. Not endlessly strong. But open. Honest. Whole. Human. Where we go from here. Now that you've made space. Now that the heaviness has softened, the emotional dust has cleared, and the truth of your inner child has begun to rise. You're ready for the final part. Part 3. Living with Wonder, a year guided by joy, innocence, and inner child wisdom. This is where we take everything you've remembered, everything you've released, everything you've uncovered, and we weave it into the way you choose to live. Not just for the first week of January. Not just when you feel motivated. Not just when life is calm. But daily. Softly. Realistically. Truthfully. This final part is about integrating the presence of your inner child into your everyday world. So joy becomes sustainable, innocence becomes strength, and wonder becomes your natural way of being. Your inner child is not a memory. They are a guide. Children don't just bring joy. They bring wisdom. They see what adults miss. They feel what adults suppress. They speak truths adults are afraid to name. They follow impulses that adults second-guess. They trust instinct over pressure. They let curiosity lead them. They soften instead of hardening. Your inner child is not the past. You carry them into every day of your life. But the adult part of you became so busy with survival, responsibility, and expectation that you forgot to listen. Now, as you enter this new year with awareness and space, you can reconnect with the one guide who never lost touch with your essence. Your inner child. They don't speak with words. They speak with sensations. A spark of excitement. A sudden feeling of joy. A tug of curiosity. A whisper of intuition. A heaviness that signals misalignment. A lightness that signals truth. Learning to trust these signals is the foundation of living with wonder. Living with wonder means living without armor. Over time, adulthood teaches you to build emotional armor. You put on layers to protect yourself from disappointment, criticism, rejection, and unpredictability. But armor, while protective, also numbs. It numbs joy. It numbs play. It numbs creativity. It numbs love. It numbs intuition. It numbs your inner child. Living with wonder means gently loosening the armor, not ripping it off, not exposing yourself recklessly, but slowly allowing softness where you once only tolerated hardness. It means being open enough to be moved. Open enough to be surprised. Open enough to feel alive. Open enough to experience magic in small, ordinary moments. You were not meant to live behind walls. Your inner child wants you to come back into the world with a soft chest and an open heart. Not naive. Not defenseless. Just human. Let joy become a daily practice, not a rare event. Children don't wait for permission to feel joy. They don't postpone happiness until the weekend or after they finish a task. They experience joy right where they are. Adults tend to view joy as something earned. But joy is not a reward. Joy is nourishment. When you enter the new year with a commitment to letting joy exist daily, things shift. Joy might look like sitting in the sun for 5 minutes, listening to a song that brings you alive, taking a slow walk without checking your phone, starting a small hobby that exists purely for pleasure, allowing yourself to laugh, even if the moment is fleeting, making time for something you loved as a child, enjoying a moment without documenting it, letting yourself rest without guilt. Joy can be tiny and still transformative. Your inner child knows how to spot joy even when you feel stuck, tired, or overwhelmed. Let them show you. Let innocence guide you back to truth. Innocence often gets misunderstood as weakness. But innocence is clarity. Innocence is the ability to approach life without assuming the worst. It is a way of seeing the world without projection or fear. It is a way of returning to truth rather than living inside old stories. Your inner child's innocence helps you ask, is this really as scary as I think? Is this really as hopeless as it feels? Is this truly my burden to carry? Is this situation actually unsafe or just unfamiliar? Is there another way to see this moment? Innocence helps you soften into curiosity instead of contracting into fear. As you live into the new year, allowing innocence to guide you brings emotional clarity that intellect alone can't access. It brings you back to yourself. Possibility. The inner child's language. Children don't assume everything will fail. Children assume something might happen. That is the essence of possibility. Possibility is the belief that life is not fixed, that you are not stuck, that change is always possible, that doors can open unexpectedly, that you are allowed to want more. Possibility is not unrealistic. It is expansive. When you let possibility guide your decisions, you open yourself to opportunities you could never have predicted. You approach life with a flexible, open-hearted mindset. Possibility is the soil where wonder grows. It is the emotional landscape where your inner child thrives. This year, let possibility be the energy you return to whenever fear tries to shrink you. Living this new year in alignment. Living with wonder doesn't require a dramatic life shift. It requires a gentle, consistent one. A year lived with inner child wisdom looks like listening to your intuition, honoring your needs, saying no when your body says no, following what feels alive, resting before exhaustion hits, letting excitement lead you, choosing relationships that feel safe, creating without judging yourself, allowing play into your daily life. Believing you deserve joy. Trusting your emotional truth. Alignment is not a destination, it's a practice. And the more you live in alignment, the more your inner child will guide you effortlessly, quietly, intuitively. Protecting your wonder. As you begin this year with softness and clarity, remember this. Wonder is delicate, but it is also resilient. You protect your wonder by protecting your energy. You protect your energy by trusting your body. You trust your body by listening to your inner child. Protecting your wonder means avoiding emotional spaces that drain you, letting go of people who make you shrink, setting boundaries your inner child never received, choosing environments that support your peace, not abandoning yourself for approval, entering situations with awareness, honoring the signals your inner child sends you. When you protect your wonder, joy can stay, hope can grow, innocence can return. Life can feel meaningful again. A soft new beginning. You are standing at the beginning of a new year. Not one driven by urgency, but one guided by truth. This year doesn't have to be extraordinary. It just has to be honest. Let this be the year where you move with curiosity, rest without guilt, feel without fear, dream without judgment, speak your truth, follow your softening. Let joy be enough. Let simplicity be beautiful. Let wonder be your guide. Your inner child has never left you. They have been quietly waiting for you to return. Now, you walk together. These parts of you are not fragile. They are your strength. If this episode has felt like a gentle returning to yourself, I created something to support you even more deeply. It's a free book called Coming Home for the Holidays: A Gentle Inner Child Awakening. It expands on inner child healing, emotional reflection, holiday tenderness, and soft new beginnings. You can download it for free through the link in the description. And if this episode brought you comfort, clarity, or peace, it would mean so much if you subscribed, liked, and shared. Thank you for listening. Thank you for choosing wonder. Thank you for honoring the child within you. This is your new year. Your year of joy. Your year of innocence. Your year of wisdom. Your year of wonder.